Have you ever met someone who always seems happy on the outside, but deep down is fighting an invisible battle? Someone whose smile hides a world of pain that no one sees? This is the reality for millions living with what's called smiling depression. A silent struggle that many don't understand, because the sadness is hidden behind a mask of joy. This hidden sadness is what we call smiling depression. Unlike the typical image of depression where someone might withdraw or show obvious signs of distress, people with smiling depression carry on with their lives, working, socializing, even laughing. But beneath the surface, they are trapped in a cycle of pain that few ever notice. What makes smiling depression so confusing is that those who suffer from it often appear completely normal. They keep up with their daily routines, meet responsibilities, and maintain relationships. To the outside world they seem strong and put together. But inside, the pain is very real and very isolating. But this so-called normality is often just a mask, a performance. People with smiling depression become experts at pretending, laughing at the right moments, saying they're fine, and hiding the truth from everyone, even themselves. The more they smile, the more invisible their suffering becomes. People with smiling depression often live in a strange dual world. By day they seem motivated, productive, even cheerful. They crack jokes, help others, go to work, raise their children, and carry on conversations as if everything is fine. And in many ways they're highly functional, which is exactly why most people never notice anything is wrong. But when they're finally alone, the cracks begin to show. That silence becomes unbearable. The smile fades and all the pain they've been suppressing crashes down like a wave. The exhaustion, the anxiety, the numbness, it's all there hiding just beneath the surface. And the worst part? They often feel like they can't tell anyone. They worry they'll be judged or worse, dismissed. You don't look depressed. But you're always smiling. You're too strong to feel like this. These comments, though often well-intentioned, become daggers. They feed the belief that their pain isn't valid, that because they function they must be fine. And so, the cycle continues. Smile. Perform. Hide. Break down. Repeat. Until one day, something snaps. Not because they're weak, but because they've been carrying the weight of silence for far too long. Inside the mind of someone with smiling depression, there's often a storm of emotions that never stops. They carry around a constant feeling of heaviness, not always dramatic sadness but a deep, dull ache. It's the kind of pain that doesn't scream, it whispers. Quietly. All day long. They often wake up tired, not just physically but mentally, like they've been fighting a battle in their sleep. And from the moment the day begins, it's a performance. A smile in the mirror. A deep breath. Then the show starts. They talk, they listen, they say, "I'm fine," so many times that they start to believe it, almost. But deep down, there's a sense of emotional numbness, like they're disconnected from the joy they're pretending to feel. Things that used to excite them now feel dull. Achievements feel empty. Laughter feels hollow. It's like watching their own life from a distance, as if they're playing a character rather than truly living. And maybe the hardest part is that they can't explain why. There's no obvious reason. No tragedy. No crisis. Just a slow erosion of the light inside them. And because they don't look broken, no one offers help. So they keep going. Because it feels safer to suffer in silence than to be misunderstood. One of the most painful truths about smiling depression is this. Many who live calm elisao aquels que todos admiram. The strong one. The reliable one. The one who's always checking in on others, always smiling, always saying, "I've got this." But here's what people often forget. Sometimes, the strongest people are also the ones who feel they have no permission to break. They carry everyone else's pain, hold families together, motivate teams, light up rooms, and yet, when it comes to their own pain, they suffer quietly. Because to admit they're struggling would mean dropping the mask. And that feels terrifying. They've been needed for so long that they start to believe they're not allowed to fall apart. So they don't. Instead, they learn to cry in the shower. To fall asleep with a smile still painted on their face. To offer comfort they never receive. And the world keeps clapping. You're so inspiring. You're always so positive. But no one stops to ask, at what cost? This is why smiling depression is so dangerous. It hides behind kindness, behind humor, behind the mask of being okay. And many people never notice the silent collapse happening right in front of them, until it's too late. One of the cruelest parts of smiling depression is the guilt. Not just for feeling low, but for feeling anything at all. They ask themselves, why am I like this? I have a good job, a family, friends. I should be happy. And yet they're not. So instead of seeking help, they start blaming themselves. They begin to believe they're ungrateful. Weak. Dramatic. They minimize their pain because it doesn't look like the typical depression people talk about. No tears all the time, no lying in bed for days. Just a quiet, heavy sadness that lives underneath everything they do. A sadness they can't explain. And because they still manage to function, go to work, respond to messages, laugh at dinner, others assume they're fine. Which only deepens their loneliness. It's a paradox. They appear so together on the outside that no one checks in, and when someone finally does, they've already convinced themselves they don't deserve support. They fear being a burden. They fear being misunderstood. So they smile harder, joke more, post pictures that say, "I'm doing great." But inside a voice whispers, "You're not enough. You're broken. And no one will really understand." This is why so many people with smiling depression suffer in silence for years. Because they don't just feel pain, they feel guilty for feeling pain. And that guilt becomes a cage. Beautiful on the outside, empty on the inside. Smiling depression doesn't just affect the person suffering, it ripples outward, quietly shaping their relationships with those around them. Friends, family, partners, they all feel the subtle shifts, the invisible walls that slowly build. People begin to notice the distance, the half smiles, the late night silences, the sudden withdrawals after a laugh. But because the outward appearance is one of normalcy, it's hard for loved ones to know how to help. They might say, "You seem fine to me," or, "Why won't you talk?" and unintentionally push the person further away. This leads to a cycle that's hard to break. The person with smiling depression feels misunderstood and isolated, so they retreat even more. They fear burdening others with their pain, so they keep it locked inside. And the loneliness feeds the depression, creating a loop that tightens over time. Yet, despite all this, many keep trying, showing up at social events, sending texts, laughing at jokes, desperately wanting to connect, but unable to bridge the growing emotional gap. It's a silent struggle, invisible to most, but deeply painful to live. Understanding this cycle is key. Because when we recognize that someone's smile might hide a storm, we open the door to empathy, patience, and support, the very things that can begin to break the silence and heal the pain. Living with smiling depression often means becoming a master of disguise. Day after day, people learn to hide their pain behind masks, practice smiles, rehearsed laughter, carefully chosen words. It's exhausting, but they do it because the alternative feels unbearable. Imagine carrying a heavy weight inside but no one sees it. Imagine feeling completely alone in a crowded room. They become experts at pretending, not just to others, but to themselves. They tell themselves, "I'm okay," even when every fiber in their body says otherwise. This constant performance takes a toll. The energy it consumes drains their spirit and weakens their sense of self. Over time, the line between who they truly are and the persona they present begins to blur. They start to question, is this smile really me? Or just a mask I wear to survive? And yet, beneath all the pretending, there's a desperate hope. A wish to be seen, to be understood, to be accepted, not for the mask but for the real person underneath. This hidden battle is one of the most painful aspects of smiling depression. But acknowledging it is the first step toward healing. Because when the mask finally comes off, true connection and recovery can begin. Recognizing smiling depression is not easy, not for the person suffering and not for those around them. Because the symptoms are subtle, hidden behind layers of charm, humor, and resilience. It takes courage to admit, even to oneself, that something is wrong beneath the surface. But admitting it is the first step toward healing. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness, it's an act of profound strength. It means choosing to fight for yourself even when the path feels dark and lonely. Therapy, support groups, honest conversations, these can be lifelines. They create safe spaces where the mask can come off, where pain can be voiced, and where healing can begin. And for those who love someone with smiling depression, your role is vital. Be patient. Listen without judgment. Offer support without pressure. Sometimes just being there quietly is enough to remind someone they're not alone. The journey isn't easy, but it's possible. Because beneath every mask, there's a real person yearning to be seen, heard, and loved. While smiling depression feels like a lonely, endless night, it's important to remember, every night ends with dawn. Recovery is possible, even if it seems out of reach right now. Healing begins when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to show the parts we've hidden away for so long. It's not a sign of weakness, but a brave act of self-love and courage. Connecting with others, sharing our story, and embracing support can transform the darkest moments into stepping stones toward a brighter future. Each small step, whether it's opening up to a friend, attending therapy, or simply practicing self-care, is progress. You are not alone in this journey. Millions walk this path, silently struggling yet fighting to heal. And in that shared human experience lies immense strength. So, if you or someone you love is battling smiling depression, hold on to hope. Because beneath the smiles, beneath the silence, there's a light waiting to shine again. If you or someone you know is struggling with smiling depression, remember, you are not alone. Healing starts with a single step, whether that's talking to a trusted friend, seeking professional support, or simply allowing yourself to feel and be honest. If this video spoke to you, please like, share, and subscribe. Join our community where we shed light on hidden struggles and support each other's journey toward healing. Together we can break the silence. Together we can find hope.